I've hit recording here. Okay. Okay, cool. I'm so excited.
Me too.
Cool. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Lo Kya Kahenge. And today we are literally starting October with something new that we have recently introduced, and that is having a theme every month to start with in terms of our podcast episodes, in terms of the people that we're gonna have on here to talk to, as well as all these like other cool, amazing things that my fellow podcaster here,
Hi guys.
Minahil, has come up with. We're kicking off October as Creativity Month with the one and only and amazing Shayan.
Yay!
Hey, how's it going, guys? It's me again. Long
It's
time
you,
no
it's
see. From last
can you
episode to this
believe it? It was-
episode. Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah.
How are you guys? How's it going?
It's going good, and naturally, the first person when we thought of like creativity that came into our heads that to kick off this with was you, because
You guys are too
we were
kind.
like, we had a lot to discuss from our last conversation,
Oh, for sure.
and I think the time is right now.
Yeah.
So I know we have like a really fun conversation planned for us. So we're gonna start off by what, Minahil, would you like to introduce with our first prompt that you want to talk about?
Let's do it.
Okay, so obviously with creativity comes a lot of different good things and bad things. Obviously, right? I feel like everybody has their own journey with creativity. Even though people like to say things like, "Oh, I'm not creative" or "I'm not an artist" or whatever, I feel like everybody has like a little bit of creativity in them. You know, even if you can just draw stick figures, that's fine. Everybody is creative. So I would just like to start by asking you guys what your first memory of being creative was.
Lovely. Who wants to start?
You do.
I start. Brilliant.
You're the guest here.
I'm the guest here. Okay. So first time creativity. Gosh. Yeah. So there's two stories that I know of. Which one should I start with the younger one, and then I'll go on with and it'll make sense why, like how it kind of affects my creative journey as well. So I guess the first one was like art class in primary school here.
Cool.
So in London. It was the first time we did anything with like clay, so like pottery kind of stuff. So we were just told to like make whatever, right? It's primary school, you just like mess around all day and try
That's
not
right.
to eat glue. And
That's right.
so I don't know why, but for some reason, like I like wanted to make a snake, but with like a nice tropical kind of pattern on it, with like green and yellows, and even put like a copper wire to make it look like it's the tongue that comes out into different pieces. Painted that
awesome.
red, and like it was standing and all as well. And I don't know how old I was. I was under like 7 or 8 years old. And that was
wow.
like a great form of like artistic expression and creativity for me. And then I got like a whole like apparently it was really good. So I got like a whole assembly like mention and thing as well. Hey, this guy made something really cool, this kid. And so when I moved to Pakistan, it's funny, right? So this is how you recycle art. So when I moved to Pakistan and there was art class in Pakistan, I was like, yo, already like I've got this hit art piece.
I'm a superstar already.
So I'm just gonna remake this thing when it came to like pottery class in Pakistan. So I made the snake again, and lo and behold, I got a certificate again, like mentioned in the assembly.
That's so funny.
I was like, this is great. This is statistical significance now that, you know, this was a good piece of work.
Nice. Tell me you're making money off of this right now.
Oh,
Tell me.
like one day. I think that
Snakes by Shayan.
Yes.
Snakes by Shayan. That should be a thing.
Oh my. Yeah. Sure. I'm gonna have to work on the connotations of that, but yeah, I'm down for it.
That's right. As we grew up, we found out how snakes can be taken into so many different
So
meanings.
many
but,
different ways. Yeah. No. Back in the day, I just really loved the like shapes and stuff. Like, there was but then I'd say from like a film point of view, a couple years later when I was about maybe 11 I was 11 or 12, probably 11. One day I just like discovered Windows Movie Maker on my computer in my house in Lahore, and I was just like so open. I mean, I've been like in somewhat of a romantic relationship with filmmaking since a very young age. So I've always been fascinated, right? So I saw like the word movie, and I was like, let me click this and see what happens. And I open, it's just like, yo, this is where I can make a movie. Like I can put videos in, or I can edit and like add sound. It was just such like something had just unlocked in my mind, and I was like, yo, like I always thought of this as like a theoretical concept of this is how I would make a movie, and here it is. Here's something that I can make movies with.
Love
so
that.
we just come back from like a family vacation, and we had like a new like Canon point and shoot camera, and my youngest brother, who's like 12 years younger than me, so he was absolutely tiny. So yeah, I mustn't have been 11 then. That makes sense. I must have been like 12 or 13. So he was very young, right? But he would somehow know that the camera's in front of him, and he would just pose so much. So I had a lot of pictures of him, and also like he was a big favorite within the ladies. So like I just like made a little slideshow of him with like Tayo Cruz's "Break Your Heart" playing.
That's hilarious.
So that's like the first thing I ever edited. But I feel like that's maybe like the first time that I remember being creative in a film editing point of view. So that's kind of what started it off. But now I look back at it, like Windows Movie Maker seems like something that cavemans would you know.
No, but you're so right, and I love that you brought that up, because I remember like Microsoft Paint, Windows Movie Maker. I think there were like a bunch of other, even those like built-in games. I feel they were, like,
pinball,
right?
Minesweeper, love it.
Yeah.
Such like cool, like simple examples of early creativity, and I think that we're kind of actually like blessed to be. Technology has actually grown up with us, and
for sure.
how it has like facilitated our creativity throughout. I think it's fabulous.
Yeah, because if you look at the video games that we used to play
Oh my god.
versus the video games now where you're literally in them.
Gotta
it's
say
kind of
that though, I
crazy.
would still play like the old Sega Sonic game any day of the week.
Yes, yes.
Compared to like I don't know, Halo these days, or
like virtual
Call of
reality
Duty.
stuff.
No
I
VR
don't
stuff.
even know.
No. I'm happy
Yeah.
with my Atari. Thank you.
Yes. Same.
Or a
and
Game
like all you
Boy.
needed was like your keyboard.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Love a Game Boy.
That is so true.
Yeah.
Oh my god. And can you believe it? Like we did we really have a concept of like a graphics card and having like X,
No.
Y, or Z, and
No,
then
no.
like, making sure that your machine is like I saw my 8-year-old, 6-year-old cousin, he's like, yeah, I'm getting like this God knows what like he was talking about. He said some alien name of a graphics card, and then he's
Right.
like, that's what I'm getting for my birthday. And
NVIDIA
my
RTX
keyboard.
like 2070 Super, something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
So he has his own gaming laptop
Brilliant.
that he brings to like every family party. It's just really
Why?
cute. We
What's
love
the
that.
point?
I know, but like when we were 8, we were sharing one keyboard with like 2-player games. And it used to be awesome. Remember
You guys
the
must have
Snow
played Need for
Brothers?
Speed. Please tell me you
my
played
God,
Need for
that's
Speed
right.
too.
Hells yeah, all
Oh,
of them.
I grew up on that shit.
And we
Like
used to
that
be
was that's
so
my childhood.
excited when
Yeah.
like a new one came out.
Completely.
Like every time a new one came out, we used to be so excited.
Yeah.
Need for
Yeah.
Speed
We
Underground.
used to be-
Oof, Riders on the Road. What a song.
Some of the coolest cars we built there.
Yeah,
okay?
because
For
you
sure.
could
It was
customize
so
your
That's
cars.
creativity as well. I feel like that's also one of the early points where I was like, oh, I can really customize stuff. This is great.
Yeah.
That is so true. And wasn't that like gorgeous? I know we're like sort of like off topic,
We are
but
so-
you're right.
we are
Like
so
you know,
off track
we're
right
so
now.
off topic in here, which is like really funny. But you know, now everybody talks about, even in the design and product world, like gamification,
Yeah.
this like thing, and
Yeah.
I'm like, well, really, guys? Because honestly speaking, if you really think about it, the joy of a new feature coming out, or like
For
the
sure.
ability to like move things wherever you want on the screen and not move in like code lines,
Yeah.
used to be so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And
always
like
like
now
to
we've just gotta.
I always like to humble myself when I look at certain videos about how like filmmakers used to make films back in the day, when
Yeah.
it was like pure celluloid film photography, or like doing graphics and CGI on like computers that are slower than our smartphones these days, you know? And the pure like perseverance just for the sake of the art. Like that
God.
humbles me so much. I'm like, I can do way more on my laptop today than like studio level computers back then.
Like
So true.
now stop motion is just like a you know like like a special effects kind of like you know thing, whereas like it actually used to be can you believe it though, if you think about it from that standard, like when Lion King came out or Tarzan came out or something like that, like the very early, remember look this having like the part A and the part B of a CD, you know. I mean
Wizard
you're
of Oz is
absolutely
a
right.
prime
Humbles you.
example. Wizard of Oz is a prime example. Like when you seeing everything in color, like Technicolor go like this, you're like, whoa, this is crazy. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And to see those movies now in like HD is like crazy.
That's the thing about film, right? Like with film, you can always like scale up the resolution, whereas with digital, the thing you've captured it in, like that's it, and it can really scale up nicely. Like if you get like this is going to be some film nerdy stuff, but it's coming anyways. 32mm film, I believe, goes up to like 8K worth of foot. Like if you were to convert that to digital and scan it, it's the area size wise up to 8K. So if you're filming in 35mm film, you're future proofed for years, because albeit though they've just now come to like 4K, 8K they're now trying to push. So there's going to be like a good 10, 20 or whatever years. It's going to be a while before like 8K is mainstream. So you're good. Even 16. Yeah, even 16mm film would get you. I don't want to be quoted on this, but I think it's like 2K, maybe. I could be wrong.
Right.
I'm not sure. But still, 2K is pretty
and
good.
For context, Shayan, like some, and what like for you know for the non-filmy people, tell us a little bit about like you know what is one of the earliest films that were shot in like 32.
Oh, so
we know, like, we have,
I think I
timeline
misspoke.
context.
Oh gosh. Yeah, so it's 35mm. I think I must have misspoken.
Oh, 35.
32mm is not a thing. So my
sorry.
apologies.
Oh, maybe I. Yeah.
No,
It's fine. It's fine. I get it.
do you know what? This is where like my nerdiness ends, because I don't know what the first film shot in like 35mm was.
Totally not. That's
but
fine.
I think Wizard of Oz was like one of the first ones shot in Technicolor, so that change of color was like ooh crazy. But to give you like a similar kind of example, like a lot of stuff what Christopher Nolan does with IMAX cameras, right? You can visibly see like a difference. So I don't know. So people that know you are gonna laugh because they know that I always talk about Christopher Nolan and I always talk about The Dark Knight. So in The Dark Knight, you may notice that
Huge fans, by the way.
Oh, it's one of my favorite films. I love it.
Me too.
There are sequences that have like black bars, right? And there are sequences that are like that just look different. That's because it's shot in like a different camera. It's shot on an IMAX camera. So the reason why it looks so different is well, obviously you've got different lenses and whatnot, but the film that you're recording on is much larger as well. So I'm guessing a lot of his earlier films must have been shot on a 35mm as like standard, and then if you the big juicy action set pieces that he wants to record with an IMAX, that runs on 70mm. So almost like twice the size in sort of like diameter, so that's 4 times the size in area, I think. So that just captures a lot more detail and a lot more resolution. So when you go to these IMAX cinemas, that's why it's good to watch IMAX shot stuff in IMAX cinemas, so that you can fully utilize the full area of that screen and sound. And I'm sure if you've seen something in IMAX, you know the difference, and that is because of that jump in quality and area in film. So it must have been a similar kind of jump going from 16 to 35 as well. I'm not sure what's the first project that was shot on 35, but I imagine the all value would have been the same as it is now.
No, that's so cool, and I love that. Like we got a little bit of a lecture in between because I love this.
Oh dear.
And we've actually said this very much, that like us going into and playing with audio was, this podcast is our first time playing with this venue or tool. But that sounds fantastic, and thanks. And actually I love how like you've basically encapsulated how your first memories of being creative have now literally this is what you do.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I still hope people are listening and they haven't fallen asleep. But no, I love talking about this stuff.
No.
It's good.
That's so cool.
Yep.
Yeah, Minahil, what's your earliest memories?
Yes.
Well, I have a lot, but I think the moment that I discovered, okay, so we obviously we all used to use Microsoft Paint and
Right.
do crazy stuff on there. But the moment I discovered CorelDraw and how you could do everything on Paint but on crack, I was so happy. I was trying to figure out how to use CorelDraw because I saw that I saw my dad use it in his office one time, and I was like, oh, what's that? And obviously we had it on our computer.
Yeah.
So the moment I discovered that, and there was this filter thing where I don't know if you remember, but I think it was a paintbrush. I'm guessing now with my information that I have, but you could drag it and it would create bubbles.
Oh,
do you remember that? I don't know if you, so you would drag the mouse and it would create bubbles, and I was like, holy shit, what just happened?
The possibilities
And that
are
was
endless.
Yes.
And I was like, wow. And so I would just use that instead of Paint. Obviously I didn't know how to do anything on CorelDraw, not even how to save stuff, because it was so complicated for me. But that was really cool.
I agree. I mean, that what really fascinated me was that right paint of just endless colors.
Yeah,
That was
yeah, the whole
beautiful.
thing. Yeah, instead of that just box.
Just
of,
box.
Yeah. So that was really awesome for me.
That's so cool. And I love that
Sounds
she
really
actually
cool.
brought up our dad's office, because I, just like you, I have I want to say a twofold. So one is definitely when I went to school, it was blessed Lahore Grammar School, and
Most respected.
most
I think
respected.
the entire
Bhashi.
Wabdagan branch is just filled with creativity. Can I just say,
I agree.
Everywhere. It's
Yeah.
just such a cute place. Okay,
It
go
was
ahead.
so, no, I completely agree. Oh, by the way, go on. If you have more.
I mean, I have so many more, but
Yeah.
we can keep sharing.
keep
them.
sharing.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, but she's absolutely right. That branch, I don't know, Shayan, have you ever been
Wabdagan
there, or
one.
were you ever? Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I wish I studied there, because my younger siblings went there, but I was too
Right.
old, so I went to the one that next to the open sewers.
Right.
So, but
Yes,
every
yes,
time
yes.
we'd go, I'd be
Ew.
like, damn, why am I missing out on this beautiful experience? Because the building looked amazing. I love that red brick aesthetic. Even in houses, I love it so much. And then there's
Yeah.
plants, vines,
Such
artwork.
a cute place. Yeah.
Perfect
And the
primary
little
school. I wish they
garden.
carried that energy into secondary school as well.
Yeah. No, township was just nasty. Just saying.
The transition from our school buildings from elementary to secondary and above was literally how people think you adults, it goes from colorful to boring and
Total.
more boring.
That's
Dude,
Dude,
so
the
sad.
school
I
we
know.
were in, Kinza, the school we were in was essentially a glorified house.
Yes, yes,
It was a house that they
Yeah.
basically converted into a school. It was
It's true.
It makes no sense.
And
Yeah.
they tried really hard, I want to say. They tried hard, I
Yeah.
guess, but the hardest. But I feel it also circles back to the, sort of for some reason, right? They put more emphasis on the creativity and the more colorful and the vibrance on, to people who, might be attracted to it, and that's small people, which is
Yeah.
babies and
Yeah.
toddlers and stuff like
Yeah.
that. It kind of hints at what we're gonna definitely touch on throughout this month, I think, is the lack of emphasis on creativity as a possible career,
Yeah.
or even something to stimulate your senses. Maybe
Yeah.
make you a well-rounded human being, which I think is really important. Not just keep
maybe it's
tapping
got
on
to
the
do
one.
with your
Yeah.
health. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe there's a connection.
Maybe
No, dude,
there's
it's
a
so
connection.
important. If anything, just
Um,
do it for your mind. Just do it for your brain, man. You
Yeah.
feel so good after. Just doodle.
Yeah,
just
I
sit down
mean-
for an hour and doodle. That's it. It's chill.
No, but why do you want to waste your ink and your paper, man? Don't do that,
True,
okay?
man.
Do you know
True,
how
man.
expensive
True.
that is? But
I'll draw on the walls.
my first, or draw on the wall. Yeah, are you crazy?
Oh,
Are you
you're
crazy?
How dare you?
And that's what my first memory actually was. So we, I think a teacher they were painting the wall in that school, And I
Yeah.
remember that teacher painting like an apple on one of the walls outside, and I thought that's so cool. And then I remember like as I grew up and stuff like that, like I had gone through some art classes and stuff, and a teacher actually invited me to paint with her on one of the walls outside. So that was really cool.
Oh, apple.
Yeah, exactly.
That's so cute.
Amazing.
And so that was really fun. And the
No, I
other
remember you
memory
being really kick-ass in like the arts in general. Like you were
Oh.
always like you were the favorite of the teachers, like in the arts side of things. So yeah, you've always been gifted, as far as I've
Thank
seen you.
you.
Yeah.
I don't thank you so much. I don't want to take the credit at all. It's my parents.
Well, half the time the teachers knew our parents too. So.
Yeah,
Fair
actually, fun freaking fact. You want to know a fun fact, which
Go for it.
I did
Let's do
not
it.
know because I feel like my parents did not want to like
Yeah.
smoke up our ass. But anyway, yeah, half the time the staff at these schools were classmates and whatnot of our parents.
Oh wow. Fair enough.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, that never came across, so they didn't really make it obvious. So.
We didn't know up until like grade 5th. Do you remember teacher Rahila at all? I don't know if you remember.
I feel that name rings a bell, but like I feel like I've
Yeah.
also maybe
Anyway,
gotten
yeah.
rid of that file. Maybe.
So that lady used to hate my parents, I think, and she took it out on me.
Oh, dear. I'm so sorry to hear
one
that.
class, like, I was the only person who didn't have and this I think like also touches on like what we're gonna talk about later. But
Yeah.
like for one class, like it was like 45 minutes or something, and she kept me standing up because I was the only person without a sketchbook in the class.
Oh no.
And she gave me hell. And she gave me hell.
Oh,
and she's
dear.
like, and then she said something to me that gave it away, right? She's like,
Mm.
how can the daughter of such parents have
Oh,
no sketchbook
no.
in art class?
No,
And
no,
I'm like,
no.
wait,
Oh,
wait,
no,
wait.
dude,
I'm
this
like,
is hurting me so much.
That's so sad. Wait, what?
yeah,
Oh,
she
no.
literally made me stand up, and she's like, you're gonna stay standing, and you're not gonna borrow like a paper from anybody. And she's like, how can the
Teachers
parents
love
of, like,
doing that, you know.
they love it. They're like, how can the parents of how can the daughter of Nadim and Noshaba not have a I'm like, who the hell?
Exactly.
Definitely something
why the hell are you
happened in
invoking my parents'
school.
name in this? Who do you think you are? Excuse me. Talk to me.
And that gave it away, right?
Yeah.
That gave it away. I go to my dad at night. I'm like, do you know this person? And
Yeah.
he like laughs and like, ha ha, yeah, that happened. I'm like, you guys,
That's so rude.
this just I've never been on this side of the card. Can you please like? Anyway,
Oh, no.
those were the not so nice memories, as you like said, but yeah, I do
no.
remember. But I feel like it was definitely a blessing that our dad and his studio was definitely one of the most creative places I've ever
Yeah,
like
seriously.
seen. It was the small like office when they started out, and then they
Yeah.
grew.
Yeah.
But you know the computers lined up with like creative software on them, and you know some sort of like music happening on
beautiful
one place
aesthetic.
and the other,
Yeah.
right? Like it was gorgeous.
Yeah. It was
love
nice
it.
to just go in there and like and explore, especially when my dad wasn't looking, and just like get into all of his stuff. Like it was really fun.
So
Yeah.
you knew
Especially,
where
like
everything was.
yeah, like in the back room, like because every time he would have like stickers printed for like people, because like you know it was an ad agency as well. So it is an ad agency as well. So every time like he had this gigantic pile of stickers in the back that were just like extra, and I would just like take them
And put them everywhere.
and put them everywhere,
Right.
obviously. And it would be like ketchup stickers and
That's right.
juice stickers, like stuff that like I don't know why I would be interested in, but that
So you'd put them in the
back room was
office?
really cool.
That was so fun. Yeah,
Yeah.
so we used to go and hang like after school or something. And mind you, like this wasn't like very close to where we used to live. It was like more in the commercial side of the city. But
The scary side.
well,
Oh, dear.
I mean, we were, you know, think about like where we used to live and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like they
Yeah.
were so like suburban from like
Suburban.
I don't even know where suburbia starts in Lahore.
Oh, I don't know.
I have no clue. I have no clue.
I don't know.
I'm that
Anything
person.
outside of the walled city, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, but definitely
Yeah.
not where his office was.
No,
Yeah,
no,
no.
no.
But that was fun, and I feel like that really gave a kickstart to like what we know now as creativity, and
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
definitely have to thank him for that.
Sure.
And my mom.
Yeah.
But I definitely want to like hear you guys talk about where you feel you are now with your creative life. Shan, something that you just said at the beginning of this call was like, I feel the creative energy, but sometimes I think that I don't want to there's not like a channel to utilize it or something like that. I thought that was fantastic.
Yeah.
We're in such a hyper aware stage right now where we can acknowledge things like that and be at peace with it and then do something with it when it hits. So I definitely want to hear from you, like where you are right now in your creative energy and what it means to you, and definitely share with us the vision that you were hinting at before this call.
Oh damn!
If you want to.
Started.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to like. That's the thing. That's why I feel like we should definitely record our pre-podcast conversations, because I feel like sometimes I just
know.
say stuff, but it's very much in the moment. But no, like creativity, it's insane. A lot of the times when I tell people that I did astrophysics at Cambridge, they're like, oh my god, that's crazy, how did you make the leap and you're a filmmaker now? I'm like, to be honest, I don't really know how to articulate that answer. To me, creativity's always been a part of me, even when I was in the sciences and mathematics. Like, that was part of the joy for me. And especially if you are a professional mathematician or a professional scientist, you are going to be working at problems that no one knows the solution to. So you need to have a creative mind to come up with groundbreaking research. I feel like that's kind of what drew me towards like theoretical physics and mathematics more than anything else. Like, yes, it made sense to me and like I could understand it, but that's besides the point. The thing that drove me was that it would be such a joy, and I think a lot of you, like, I mean, a lot of people listening as well could relate to this. Like, if you're stuck, and like, doesn't matter if it's a math problem, but like, I'm going to say math just for the sake of it. But if you're stuck in a really difficult maths problem and for like hours and hours, and like you finally figure it out through genuine inspiration, and like that moment you're like, yo, I could do it like this and it works.
You're right.
It's just, that's a high that you can't buy. Like that, it's incredible. So that kind of feeling is basically what creativity gives me. Every time I come up with a new idea for a film or a short or like anytime a new concept comes into my mind, it feels like I have like solved a problem. Like something's just clicked in my mind, and I'm like, yo, this could be pretty cool, and it seems pretty original, and I can see this story, this vision being on the screen, and people hopefully watching it and liking it. This is what I want the audience to feel like, and it sort of just starts from there. And that spark of genuine inspiration, like that's I feel like the fruit of creativity. That's why I do it, and I've taken that energy from like science and like just carried it on. So to me, like I still have that attachment with science because it's that connection with the energy, but that's carried on to film. Yeah, what do you think about that?
No, I love that.
So nice, yeah.
And I think that what you're saying is so true. Like, I know people have like this very rigid view sometimes of like, I only use the left or the right side of my brain. Like, I'm only a right brain person or a left brain person. And I don't think that's true. I think like God's given you two sides of the brain for a reason. So use them, for like, solving issues. I mean, to be very honest with you, like, I think that for me, I've always like thought that I was a very serious person to put out any sort of like true creativity. So I kind of like had a lot of expectations of myself, and people being my parents, honestly, also viewed me as a person who is very serious, and so I had this like view of myself that I might not be. I mean, I was, as you said, like, we always dabbled in the arts. We were always artistic, but to actually view it as a career was never like really a serious thought until I was in the thick of learning about it. And that being said, like, just like you, I was doing bioscience, and then I was doing visual communications together, and the way that effed with my brain was insane, because I was going from like biology and chemistry and how like neurons communicate with X and
like
Y
facts
to like oh, photography class, today we're shooting like, 2 skin tones on da-da-da background. And that used to mess with my head
That's crazy.
to no end.
Yeah.
And that's when I like had to put my foot down and said, like, if I'm gonna do one thing really well in my life, I have to choose. And and then we had that serious conversation with my parents, which ended up being like not so serious, but it did, however, mean that
Amazing.
like as a woman of color,
Yeah.
as a person who in a culture that just only sees careers such as creative careers as not careers at all, just hobbies, it meant that a lot of like work was cut out for us. So I've always had respect, though, however, for people who have just been, I'm going to say in the true sense, born creative, like my sister here. I feel like I will say that
True.
I have always looked at people who have been able to, look at colors differently, look at forms and shapes differently.
Yeah.
And while I think of things as very like formational sometimes and making sense out of it, somebody like her can definitely, morph things and just create something like crazy.
Look at it through a much more fluid lens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Minahil, I just
do it. That's part of the joy, isn't it? Of just like talking to other people, other artists. I feel like we're all just artists deep down inside.
Agreed.
Yeah. Definitely. Well, thank you, Gail. Although I have been getting yelled at recently because I've been using a lot of dull colors.
That wasn't yelling. It was fruitful conversation. So one thing,
fruitful conversation. That's
but everything she says though, like the feedback and like the comments that I receive from her, I take them very seriously, definitely, because
that's fair.
I do believe in like experience, and she's obviously had like more experience than me. No matter what the creativity level is or the expertise level is, like I always take her comments like very. Because she tells it to me like straight up.
Value a lot more.
Yeah. So I guess she noticed that I've been using like a lot of colors, like dull colors and dull colors, and not a lot of contrast. So she'd be like, "Oh, maybe if you made that white, like that would look better," and it does look better. So thank you.
Yeah, no, it's good. That is how collaboration works.
Yeah. Oh, completely. And something that is like a basic skill that you need in art school. There's 2 things that you want to be able to do in art school. Pin something up and let people shit on it. And then the second is,
defend it.
Defend it.
Not defend it.
Or not defend it. It's like, it was a choice. It was a choice.
It's a stylistic choice, okay? Don't talk to me about it.
Yeah. But I guess like now having gone through art school, my creativity is a lot different than it used to be when I was a kid. I'm always, I guess, kind of scared. I was very scared in school that I'm not using my creativity to the extent that I could use it. Because I would see all of these people, I'm not comparing myself to them, but I would see these people like, using one thing and making it completely, something different. I'd be like, oh shit, why didn't I think of that? But that's one part where I'm like kind of stuck, and like it's like a burden where like I'm like scared to move forward. I'm like, am I going to make this like the complete extent that I can? And the other side of it is that like then it just automatically comes to me sometimes, and I'm like, oh, like maybe if I did this it will look better. And one thing that art school has taught us, I guess, is yes, you can like make things make sense, but always just make it like what you want it to be, as abstract as it sounds. Like it doesn't always have to make sense, unless you're in typography with my sophomore year type teacher, who was hell. But hopefully she doesn't listen to that. But like I feel like I'm very blessed because I did go to a school where there was a lot of creative freedom, as long as you could like defend what you did and then you like what you did. I like to give myself both the freedom and the restrictions. So but one thing obviously I feel like we all struggle with is making art that other people will like, and then making art that like you yourself would like. I feel like sometimes I do get stuck in that where I'm like, oh,
do you find that there's a disparity sometimes?
I feel like, what do you think?
I think that honestly speaking, having made art and sold art, I think that the disparity is almost there. 98% of the time. Simply being that, like, and that's why, like, recently I have been basically against the idea of judging any art. I think that so, for example, my master's degree, right? Like, it was a whole series of pass and fail classes, and I think that I kind of like adhered to that better in a school setting, because previously in my undergrad, I had been constantly obsessed with the idea of getting an A star in everything. Because that means it's the 4.0, right? And I think that how do you really, if somebody views the color, which by the way I feel like colorblind people can speak to this better, to be honest with you, but if she's wearing green and I don't see it as green, how can you really grade that shit? You can't. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the disparity between like making art for that you're getting paid for versus art that you make for yourself, well, that's just bound to happen. And I think that that's one of the reasons why people get very discouraged when it comes to like, you need to, in order to be a successful artist in the view of the world, you need to be able to make, you need to be able to monetize it. Something that a lot of us are not taught. But honestly, something that not a lot of us are built for either.
Yeah, I feel like it's all also about like what you said, it's also about like how you immerse yourself in information about how you can like sell the art that you make for yourself, but then also sell it. And I feel like I've had a total of like two professors who really, really, really opened my mind into like how to do that, really. They'll be like, okay, make this for yourself, but then also make it accessible to other people. And those two professors, I feel like, really did help me. Just the example of like zines that we've been talking about a lot lately. To me, they used to be like freshman year or sophomore year, they used to be just like cool books to look through, but now,
nothing serious.
after like having taken that class with that professor, it's like opened my mind to like endless possibilities and like people, like how to make these zines relatable to other people, and then stuff that people actually want to collect and buy and think that it's cool.
I think a thing that Minahil has pointed out is so important, right? Like, it's people who kind of like are morphing our minds or changing our minds or guiding our minds to think about certain things.
For sure.
And I want to definitely ask you guys, like, because I have like a bunch of examples in my head. Two or three definitely stand out. But, what is your view on like the world having accessible teachers or professors that teach art in a way that make it for yourself and accessible? I mean, what has your experience been, Shayan?
I mean, just echoing back on the conversation that we had last episode, teachers are very important in determining someone's career choices. Like, it sounds pretty bad because it almost makes it sound like you don't have any free will in choosing what you want to do, but I'm not saying that. I'm rather saying just the weight of influence that a teacher or a mentor can have in either steering a child towards or away from a certain discipline. Like, their passion can be like completely destroyed if the teacher doesn't do their job well, or like actively destroys their passion, and vice versa as well. Like, a teacher can be one that nourishes their passion as well and literally makes them the artist or sets them off on that path that makes them the artist that they want to become. I think it's very, very important. I also have been like involved in teaching in one form or another for a very long time, at least. I mean, I've been a private tutor since like for about 5 to 7 years.
Oh wow!
Like, and that's like, I've been doing that for a while. So teaching is not only very personal, but it's also something that I have a fair bit of interest in as well. So it is very important. Like, I can't stress this enough. I feel like there have been like significant points in my life where like teachers have influenced like my current choices, like for better or worse, right? But what's really sad is like this is a true anecdote. I don't know if he was ex at the time or not, but one of Pakistan's like ministers, I think he was the interior minister at the time of Nawaz Sharif's government, Ehsan Iqbal, right? He came to Cambridge. Like, the Pakistani Society invited him, and like he came to give a talk, and it was like a good, nice, like intimate kind of event, like maybe 20-30 people, and like he's just speaking to us in a room. And he's the interior minister, so like like the Home Minister essentially, or I don't know what the equivalent of it would be. Not Secretary of State. But anyways, like looking after everything inside of the country. And he just point blank just said that, like, guys, let's be honest, like, Pakistan doesn't need artists. Pakistan needs, like, engineers and doctors and these people that are going to build the infrastructure for everyone. And I couldn't, like, I hadn't become the artist that I am today back then, but still, that thing stung, because it's like, how... So you're telling me, like, you've never listened to Coke Studio and you've never enjoyed, like, any kind of clothes that you wear or any music that you listen to or any kind of, like, like, the food that you eat, dude, like...
Yeah.
And you're meant to be from Punjab as well,
Amazing.
like, it's... And just
Oh, come on.
People at, like, such a senior level of government, like, with their believing that, you know, arts aren't that important and the arts aren't going to make the difference that we need in Pakistan. Oh my God, do people need, like, a wake-up call? Like, this needs, like, an institutional change. So this comes from teaching, because we're not told that art is a beautiful thing and can be pursued as a career. Yes, it's going to be difficult because the infrastructure isn't as publicly available or even as glorified, I'd say, in Pakistan right now as it should be. But when we start, like, committing children to like, these avenues, or build the infrastructure to be like, look, parents, chill, like, you can actually build a career out of this. Like, a lot of work needs to be done on this.
I totally agree. And Minahil and I have been talking continuously about the awareness factor of basically, it's not about, you know, as graphic designers, we have a tendency to look at something and say, oh, that's ugly. But, you know,
sometimes you gotta be
unfortunately,
brutal, but that depends on the project.
yes, I mean, we were talking about pretentious art students. Yeah. Okay. So, you know, unfortunately, and every single time, like, so recently we've started, like, you know, actively doing this thing where we're catching ourselves say, oh, but, like, look, they tried.
Yeah.
You know? And so, and so, you know, something that you were talking about earlier completely falls in sync with something that we've been thinking of, and, like, you know, also hoping to put some energy behind, is that the awareness of how entrenched art and design really is into our daily lives. And if and only if used to its strength, it's actually very, 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 very vital to the progression of our society. So, case in point, like, for example, like, when I went through my training as an interaction designer, I basically studied sociology, psychology, of course, the arts, right? Like the design side of it and everything like that. The business side, right? And basically how we as humans interact with objects. So, like, this microphone that you have, you know, on your headphones, somebody decided that it was important that I talk to you and you hear me clearly at the same time, while I can hear you at the same time. And that is because, like, somebody studied the fact that, hey, Shayan is, you know, has these two basic needs that need to be done in a beautiful way. It needs to look good for sure. But what also needs to happen is that it's the right amount down from his mouth as he's speaking, and like, you know, his ear is this accounts for the shape of, you know, not only Shayan's ear, but if we're gonna make any money out of this, it needs to account for the shape of the ear of like millions of people, right? So and what my mind has been, like, completely thinking of is that how little we think about those subtleties when we think about design and products that are made for South Asian people. And
we take it for granted, definitely. Massively.
And it's actually becoming a sort of like a, I don't want to, like, sound dramatic, but it's an epidemic, because you know, if you're not teaching your kids to pursue careers that are going to represent you at these stables of design, products, software, technology, then the needs of your people are actually not going to be accounted for in these things.
Right.
You will always have second-hand technology, in some cases third-hand technology that is built for completely other communities, and your community will never ever be compensated, or even, like, I mean, isn't there basically what you've told me that government person said was that, hey, our needs don't matter. I mean, if you're not, you know, right, like,
we're not going to be a positive contribution to like that. We are not what the country needs right now when that like art is exactly what you need when you're down. That is exactly what you need, more than anything else. But yeah.
And unfortunately, like, you know, our definitions of art are so limited to
Yeah, I
it being
agree.
a canvas,
A painting,
a painting.
a drawing.
Yeah, drawing,
But meanwhile,
coloring.
like everyday products, like you said, that we use are literally art. Like they're done
agree.
by a product designer,
Yeah.
and we just don't think anything of it.
You see how you were
Well, we do.
describing the process of, you know, this headphone to me, is how I would describe the thinking, like, again, bringing it back to, like, a scientist, right? Like, that methodical thinking, like, acha, if I'm going to design an experiment, it has to be like this. It must have these flaws. It must be, like, health and safety, so I have to make sure I'm doing this, that, the other. So you've got a number of variables that you've got to adhere to, and also, like, boundaries and restrictions that you've got to deal with as well. And then whatever you come up with is the art, because then you
Yep.
play with it,
Right.
then you have your conclusions and blah, 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 blah. But it's surprising how many parallels there are in
Right.
these supposedly different worlds. But the reason why it's so nourishing is because it's that healthy way of running your brain, I feel like.
Completely. And to like bring it back to what people have like a more commercial way of looking at art, like you can have a commercial made for the same headphones by something like the likes of Apple versus
Yeah.
something like the likes of, I don't know, man, Q Mobile.
Yeah,
That was the
Yeah.
recent example I saw that I
Yeah.
was like, okay, they tried.
They tried.
You know.
That's fair.
And
that's
for
fair.
like our American audience, like, you know, Q Mobile is like this basically also like a technology company based in
Yeah.
Pakistan, and
Yeah.
Yeah, but their headphones ad was like something for like you'll find at 7-Eleven for $10
yeah,
when you're
yeah.
like
If they-
brutal.
they-
You're brutal.
going to class last minute and you forgot your headphones.
Their
describes
their
me.
USP is just like very cheap products, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, like their ads, like just I'm not like again we're not like dissing
No.
Pakistani ads because some are really really nice. Like
Yeah.
some actually like make you cry. But you know
okay, I
these
need to watch
quick
more of these.
I'll send you some. These quick like product ads, they're not well thought out. I feel like there
Yeah.
is just like a guy like speaking in the back on like times 2 speed, like that. Like he literally sounds like that.
Tell you
and
what
then it's
though.
just a
Tell
product.
you what though. People that killed it in the commercial world, the Uphone team, the Uphone
I agree.
ads
Dude.
killed it.
Always.
Killed it. I feel like that's gonna be a big part of my creative journey as well. Like,
I
it's-
agree.
They're so funny.
I remember
They're
them
so
so well. So anyone who can understand Urdu or Punjabi, like, you know, who understands these languages, please just go ahead and like revisit the Uphone ads, or like if you haven't come across them, just watch them anyways because it'll be fun.
They're so funny. It's like Geico insurance.
I completely
they're so
freaking agree.
weird.
Geico has this like lizard. It's like auto like home insurance, etc.
Yeah.
And Geico has this lizard that just pops up everywhere and just basically
Like,
Weirdest
Like the Kool-Aid
ads.
man.
abstract ads.
Like
man.
we were discussing, like it feels like their team is like a bunch of freshly graduated like ad students
frat people.
with like a lot of funding
Yeah.
and they're amazing
drugs.
ideas. Yes,
and just
and lots of acid.
made beautiful
so
stuff.
funny.
Made.
It's literally that's what Uphone is. So funny.
No, but Uphone
And-
is
but-
genuinely funny as well.
It's
Yeah.
so good. And you know what? I might just like for the sake of, you know, pushing the again what we were talking about, the
Yeah.
good of our community out. I will literally translate some and just put them out like as like
oh
a
my
hey,
God,
I don't.
please.
We should do that
More
on our
people.
story.
Own
Actually,
this.
yeah,
we should just totally fucking do that
that.
because I feel like people need to see like and another thing that I do want to bring up, Shayan, is like, you know, something that we actually felt in our bones and it gave us chills
Yeah.
was last weekend when we were doing photo shoots for LKK. And it felt so freaking amazing and
Yeah.
refreshing to see like brown faces up there against
Oh my
like
God,
creative.
that brings me so much joy. Brings me
It
so
was
much
insane.
joy. No,
Yeah. It was
first of all,
insane.
that photo shoot looks incredible, and like
Thank
kudos,
you.
hats off, all the respect to you guys for like making it happen. It's so
Thank
cool. It
you.
looks really, really cool. And on top of that, like
Thank you.
South Asian representation, ooh, mwah, brilliant.
Thanks.
Right, and then we had others like there. a Puerto Rican girl. She's Puerto Rican, right?
Yeah.
And then a Greek girl. So like,
love it.
we tried to like mix it up a little bit.
Great diversity.
We're still recruiting, and actually a backstory to that,
Yes.
right? Like, I'm sure we're gonna talk about this even more. But like, even in recruiting like South Asian people for things like these, man, like, we're constantly we put our dad on like recruiting duty for us,
Lovely.
as he knows all these like guys from the masjid and stuff like that. So he's been calling up these uncles and being like, "Hey, aapka beta, is he interested? Like your son, is he interested?"
Yeah.
And they keep on saying, he just has so much work.
Yeah.
His university, his homework, and I'm like,
No,
dude,
you gotta
come on.
connect
Even
them
if-
directly. You gotta get through to them directly. It's not the Gobinia. You
Yeah.
will never get through.
Yeah,
like
we
this.
will find a way.
we
to do
will
that.
find a way. But like the truth of the matter is that people think that these are hobbies. They don't
No,
understand how important it is. I mean, just think about for a fact. Like, if we really wanted to save time and lots of money, we would have tried and found mock-ups of people to put these things on. Can
Yeah.
we Photoshop this on people? Sure. But can you believe that? Can you believe that even like in the mock-up world, or even in like just like in like stock world,
Yeah.
right? The only people that you will find Pakistani or Indian are like villagers with like
I've
things
actually
on their
never had a
heads.
chance to go through stock photos like this, but oh my god, if this is real,
Don't do
what
it.
the
It's an
hell?
inspiration killer.
Oh,
You know what we should do? You know
that's
the
so
stock,
bad.
the stock photo memes
Yeah.
of like all the white people. We should do that for the brown people, but like they're the villagers. I think that's gonna be so funny.
You
Let's do
you
it.
go on Adobe stock,
do
which
it.
is like
Yeah.
you know Adobe, right? Like so.
Yeah,
I mean,
massive
and you type
library,
in like
you'd think.
Indian or Pakistani. Like, first of all,
Yeah.
there's no such thing as Pakistani. Okay, nothing will show up. But like, you write Indian and you'll see like these villagers and like these
Yeah.
like pots of water
And
and
like
like
serving chai.
like this.
Oh
and then-
no! This is like
Yeah,
this
yeah,
is
yeah.
colonial romanticism, like just absolutely, yeah. When British
So
India,
sad.
yes, rule Britannia. This is what this is such like imperialistic.
And if our government
like,
is preaching that we need
romanticism,
more
nostalgia.
engineers, well,
Oh,
government,
no.
you clearly don't have the need for Adobe stock photos. Like, big
Yeah.
fu to you, but we
Yeah.
don't need it that anymore.
No.
We needed that when there was, when we didn't have doctors, when we didn't have engineers, when there was like more of this scarcity thinking of like, we need these people to survive.
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter is, if we want to like run with the rest of the world in the 21st century, we really, really need to amp up our supply of like creatives and musicians and product designers and stuff like that. And don't get me wrong, like, it's not that these people don't exist right now. They just exist in a very, very, very small minority, which is why they're called a minority.
Yeah.
And then, the other thing being, like we need to come together. And Shayan, this is something that I
Yeah.
really appreciate you for. We need to come together as a community, because one person on their own can only do so much. They have a family
Yeah.
to feed, they have themselves to like feed. You live in a place like New York City, it will beat you to death every single
Oh,
day.
yeah, for sure.
And you'll get up and do it again. But
Yeah.
communities of creatives need to come together so we can do it together, and then
Yeah.
actually maybe we will one day not be called a minority,
No,
and,
I agree.
and speak about these things in exactly the setting that we're talking right now. It's like pointing out these issues right now. Who says that I'm not okay with the fact that I type in Pakistani and Indian
Yeah.
and try and find a picture on the internet
And you
that
get
I can
nothing.
possibly buy
Yeah.
and use in like advertising, and I get nothing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not good. It's not cool.
I mean, yes, like if you're a business-minded person, your business opportunity flags will start just like waving instantly, and you'll be like, oh, gap in the market. But like that
Yeah.
doesn't that doesn't change the fact that it's ridiculous that there's just like no representation. And like, so yeah, of course you're not then surprised, and your billboards, your adverts only feature a particular kind of demographic, and you're like, yo, where are my people at, man? Like,
Yeah.
But no, I fully hear what you're saying. Like, communities make us stronger, and I feel like one of the biggest problems, or one of the biggest issues right now is like, and we were talking about this before we started recording, and there is I get this sense of feeling that there is a massive community of artists in Pakistan that are like not necessarily underground, but just like they exist, and it's like bubbling underneath the surface, but there is just a very little leeway to like make it accessible, or like for them to art to be shared amongst other artists. I feel like the more art that artists share with each other, the healthier that becomes. Because I don't know, for example, if you're like, you want to be talking about the stuff that you're interested in, right? And you want to be talking to people who are interested in the stuff that you're into. So I love talking about films with filmmakers because they get the craft. I would even love it more if I could talk to Pakistani filmmakers, because not only do they get the film side of things, they also get the cultural side of things, and like also different interpretations and takes. Oh, you show it this way, like that's cool. Like I've always seen it from this side of things. And I feel like the more a community grows, the more of these kind of like networks you build and lines of communications, and the more you have it, the stronger the network becomes. And it doesn't then matter how big or small that is. If it's a positive thing, it's going to become a force for good, and there's inherent strength in that, regardless of numbers. And then that's the voice that will then echo out and hopefully make art a lot more accessible in Pakistan. So I feel like it's really important for us to build a community, build a network, because I know for a fact, like I know firsthand, man, like there are people there. We need to just reach out.
We need to reach out. We need systemic architecture that actually supports these kinds of not only dreams but realities, I want to say. And I think that like recognizing and not like, for example, what it took for you and I to come together and us to come together was just reaching out, just saying, hey man, I recognize that you and I literally came from the same place, and we are in creative circles that is fucking heard of, so let's get together, you know? Like basically that's what it was. And I think that the more people sort of like see that and get comfortable with that, I think that that's where the change starts to begin. And hopefully we see more funding, because we cannot like ignore the fact that a lot of this comes from the first things, even here in the United States, the first things to get cut from funding is art.
It's always art and theater.
It's always art and theater. It's always music. And for somebody who is so serious about this, I mean, you're basically cutting off their future livelihood.
Yeah. Exactly.
So that's like definitely a more, serious conversation to be had. You guys won't believe it, but we're at the top of the hour already.
Yeah,
but,
I know. I'm looking at the times. Again, I don't know what we talked about, but yeah, insane. I hope people are still listening. Much love if they still are.
Which I feel like, to all the people that I know, that there are some people over here that are listening for sure that have said that I don't know how to convince my parents. I don't know how to make it look like I'm serious about what I'm doing. Yeah. I literally had a conversation. Remember that person that we had a conversation about in Pennsylvania? She was about like 16 or 17.
Oh, yes.
And she was just telling us that like, I asked her like, so what are your plans? And she's like, my plan is to make money. And I'm like, okay. Yes, girl boss. And then and then she was like, no, I really, and she's like, and I really want to do it because I'm really good at drawing, and I'm really good at these skills. And
she was really good at video.
She was great at video.
Right.
Okay.
Amazing.
And but her parents just could not put two and two together as to like how a girl like her is gonna make money out of like a camera.
I feel like that's the thing. It's people like us, for example, or if people that have like the resources or the finances in place, like to like set themselves. I'd say like it's always a constant struggle. No one's ever really and truly there, right? That's part of the joy of this journey. But I feel like it's also down to people who have that leeway or infrastructure or facility to project that accessibility to people. I feel like a big duty of that onto myself. Like I really want to be able to position myself in a place where I can be that person where people can look to and work with people who are like this as well, who people can look to and be like, yo, parents, this guy did it this way, came from like nothing, or like had no idea, no family background, no like connections, nothing pushing other than like just like his own like passion and will to do it, and that is all I need to like make it in the art, like, because otherwise I can't survive, right? And but then it's down to us to like also like enable those paths as well, and not make sure that the next generation goes through like the struggles that this generation has to. I feel like that's like a duty of care.
I think that you've just defined what should be our follow-up episode to this, and that is the next steps, the how-tos.
Yeah.
I remember like one of the things we had talked about in one of our catch-up calls was the issue of plagiarism and copywriting and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a very serious topic that
For sure.
if we in like, you know, what would be considered more art evolved worlds have trouble
Yes.
with, then I'm sure that is it's a concept that's like actually very, very sensitive in like Pakistan and stuff like that.
Oh, I
having
agree.
like having witnessed so many
Oh yeah.
just like blatant
easy all the time, everywhere. Like I don't
the
even
time.
have to say much. Everyone
Yeah,
knows.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
you're very right. I feel like part of that might just be because there's not the awareness or education.
Yeah.
Like yes, I agree
Exactly.
that part of it is also like trying to do it the sneaky and easy way. But
Yeah.
if you're an artist with like notions of integrity and respectability, like if you care for your own work and you're making original work, you would want to be aware about how to treat and respect someone else's work as well, because you'd have that inherent like empathy inside you. But maybe part of the case might be because people don't know what the legalities are and what the formalities are. Seeing that you guys have that information, I feel like that should be a really, really good episode for people to delve into.
Yeah. And honestly, what I would love to learn from you is even like, you know, a one-on-one on, because something that I'm curiously genuine about is I learned storytelling as part of the designers, you know, upbringing and story and craft. I would love to, you know, get from you what storytelling means to you, what storytelling means to you.
For sure.
You know, I'm pointing at both my co-podcasters here, but, you know, I feel like there are so many elements that we can, you know, explain and not teach exactly, but talk about as like stepping stones to how to accomplish your dream of, even if you're doing creativity as for yourself or hopefully one day selling it.
Hopefully in the effort to try to at the very least just inspire some bit of like spark and be like, oh, like I might not do the same art the same way these guys are saying, but I get the energy, I get the spirit, I get the kind of like emotional connection that this guy is talking about. So I'm
if
down
anything,
for
the benefit of like lived experience.
that.
But with
Sweet.
that, guys, thank you so much. I don't know where the hour flew.
Seriously.
We're
I
slightly
have
over
zero
as well
clue.
now. Damn.
I know. But as always, this was such a pleasure. Thank you so much.
No,
And,
thank
we're
you guys
gonna-
for listening. It's been a genuine pleasure sharing my
you.
thoughts.
Yeah, as always.
And we'll be like talking about this throughout the month. So
sure.
lots more to come.
Lots more to come. In the meantime, and I'm going to have Shayan lead this today. In the meantime,
Have a great weekend and
don't
never worry about-
never worry about
never worry about
Look
kya
kya
kahenge.
kahenge. Woo!
Yes.
Did it. Lovely.